You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Yep, Charlamagne the God, Angela Yee. We are the world's most dangerous morning show, The Breakfast Club. I don't know where the hell Envy at. Kentucky Derby or some rich shit, but
well, he's missing out.
We got my man Hebru Brantley here.
Yes. What's up, y'all?
He's a artist. Mm-hmm. What else?
Designer.
You
know,
video director.
Video director, part-time hand model. You know what I mean? All around nice guy.
You made this?
Made that.
Wow, that's dope.
Flyboy.
Now let's talk about Flyboy. Is probably your most popular, I would say, well-known character that you have, right?
Sure. Definitely. Flyboy kind of originated from the idea that like there was no people of color in that popular space. Like, you know, when you think of Mickey and Donald and, you know, some of those characters. And so I just looked through history, man, and I think like some of the most prominent times obviously was during segregation and World War II, more especially like the Tuskegee Airmen. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so I just created a character and sort of presupposed that this kid existed sort of in that pantheon of all these other cartoon characters, and I just use him in all my paintings and things like that to kind of push the narrative.
I ain't gonna lie, Flyboy look a little too real, man. I don't know if I want I think I might be scared to have you flying around, man.
So let's talk about your art, because you are from Chicago, from the South Side, right?
Yeah, born and raised.
And I have definitely seen you in Chance the Rapper. How did Chance the Rapper, because obviously I'm not from Chicago, so I'm sure that you already are legendary in Chicago before word has spread out. So how did your career in art actually take off? Because I know you weren't traditionally trained, so to speak.
Well, it's correct. Yeah, no, I definitely, I went to Clark for film, but I'd always been doing art, and then I worked in, you know, on the movie side, doing a lot of like storyboard stuff. And then in the A, you know, around that time, it was like the music scene was thriving. You know, Outkast was sort of really picking up. You had Luda, you had everybody, Yin Yang Twins. So it was funny, all these directors were coming to me asking me to do, you know, some visuals for the video, but every video was the same. I need a booty shot right here.
Jesus Christ.
I need, you know, it was all the same. It really was no artistic, you know, integrity involved. And at the time, DJ Drama, you know, when he was dramatic, we would sell goods on campus, you know, every Thursday, Friday on Spelman's campus. So I was selling T-shirts and the whole thing, and you know, that sort of just evolved into me doing work on canvas. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until later on, really the biggest shot I got was when Jay got a piece.
Jay-Z and
Yeah.
Beyonce.
Okay.
And you know, it was at Art Basel, which takes place every year in Miami. They were down there, and you know, I have some mutual friends that put us in tune, and he was like, "Yeah, man, bring the piece by." So I'm running through the art fair trying to take this big ass piece off the wall, like, you know, throw it into the car, and you know, we head over to the house, and you know, it was a bug out moment. My wife was with me. We walk into the house. She was pissed at me the whole day because I was gone. It was her birthday, and so we finally get to the crib. I don't tell her where we're going. So we walk in the house, and you can only see a light on in the kitchen, and Beyonce's in the kitchen just eating, you know, salad,
Get out
chilling.
of here.
And my wife she grabs my side so damn hard, like she puts her nails in, like she's freaking out, like, where the fuck are we? And then, you know, they were lovely, man, great people. And B was just like, you know, head out in the back.
So your wife wasn't mad at you anymore?
Hell no.
Hold on now, let's backtrack a little bit.
Now Charlamagne's interested.
Why were you walking into Jay-Z's doghouse? Why was it only?
Well, I mean, no, everybody was, it was a spot they rented.
Oh, got you.
Everybody was chilling out in the back. So when we got there, like, you know, everybody was in the kitchen or on the back, you know, little back porch area or deck area. So, you know, we got there, you know, and this is when Blue was a little one in the walker. So
this was recently.
Yeah, she's walking around and, you know, whatnot and drooling and shit. And then we just go out back, and, you know, Jay's like, "Man, what you got for me?" And I showed him the piece. You know, they fell in love with it instantly. And, you know, just talked through it, and he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna make it happen." So
Who turned them on to you?
Bron and his people.
Okay.
You know, Randy, Mav, those guys, like, you know, Rich.
LeBron James.
Yes,
I know you're on a short name basis with
That's
those guys.
actually how you ended up here today, because DJ Stephalos hit me, and he was like, you know, we really want to get him up. He run the Breakfast Club, and so did Garrett Wolf hit me as well.
I feel like
Chicago.
I got text about you too. Let me check my phone. I'm pretty sure I did too.
Like, who made it happen?
Right. Who did it first?
I don't even know. I was like,
and I was like, no, I promise you, we're gonna make it happen. So, and I do appreciate it, because I have been trying myself, and I feel like a lot of us should be trying to learn more about art, because that's not anything that I've really like been educated on in any way. And so I've been trying to figure out, like, what's a good piece of art, what's good pieces of art to buy, because it's hard to determine that because everybody tells you something different. So what one of my best friends told me, Santi, she was like, listen, Angela, don't even look at it as like, are you investing in something because are you planning to sell these pieces? And I was like, no, I just want to have something really nice, but I want it to be worth something. She said, well, then if you like something that much, just buy it.
Right.
If it speaks to you, buy it instead of
Absolutely.
thinking so hard about, is this going to be worth something later? What's the resale value? What if this is worth nothing later and I spend this money?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, first of all, you have to live with it, right? So you have to buy what you like, and then it just depends on how your appreciation grows. I mean, I'm very thankful to Swiss Beats. I think that
Swizzy.
he's a person. I mean, beyond just the talent, he recognizes talent very well, and he's been an advocate for the arts for years. Before it was popular, and once he started putting certain guys on in the mainstream, they helped make art popular. Because when I was growing up, that's the last thing I told people I did. The automatic assumption was, all right, it's a 6'8" dude. What team you playing for? What school you playing for?
Right.
And so, it's given a lot more, credence to artists and art being a cool thing now, especially with social media. Because, before it's very dismissive, and we're not taught to learn or appreciate it, at all. So it's a thing, and we don't understand. Like, I mean, you got guys that will go by the chain or, get the toolkit, right? The watch, the whip, but understanding all of that shit depreciates. And art appreciates. And if you buy smart, art really appreciates.
Right.
I mean,
is there a way to predict it though? Because sometimes you really can't tell can you tell what's...
sometimes you strike gold. Sometimes you hit on an artist that you kind of like and they just happen to blow. Other times, there's a ton of people out there that are put in that space to kind of help guide in that way, and you watch the market. It's just like anything else. You watch how certain artists are moving, you watch how certain artists are selling, but it's a real great time for artists, especially Black artists.
Yes.
Like there is a sort of resurgence and a renaissance going on where now everybody is coming and just clamoring for these works, and it's like, it's a beautiful time to be a visual artist.
Yeah, and it makes you feel dumb because like my homegirl Jazz Flyer hit me and she was like, Hebru Brantley wants to come on the show. He's an artist, and I was like, he got an album coming out. Because you hear artists,
Right,
you just think
right, automatically,
music.
Right. Yeah, that's it. But again, man, it's one of those things where it hasn't become like social media now has made it cool because Instagram is just visual. It's all visual, and that tells the story. So you have a lot of younger kids, and this is what I love, and to be able to be kind of at the forefront of this, it's just like, when I talk to kids, I tell them, like, basically, one, y'all are fucked, in that situation. But ultimately, you don't have to subscribe to the fact that you can only do X amount of things. I believe that a lot of kids are born with a natural creativity, within them, but it gets stifled through, years of experience and things you go through. But, again, if you start to see those people that look like you doing these things,
Right.
You're going to want to, follow suit. It's just like music. Everybody wants to do music because they feel like it's an easy thing, or, not knowing the process, not knowing what it takes to be an artist. But, with visual arts, at one point at its base, you take a pen, a pencil, and, you're getting started. But it's just showing them another way because you can actually, the lure of the starving artist is dead. Like, and that was what my parents were afraid of. But, like,
because you can't showcase that on Instagram, man. Nobody wants to see you struggling on the gram. No struggling rappers on the gram.
But like back in the day, it's always that thing where like an artist is starving or an artist never really makes money until they're dead. That's what it was. You look at, there's exceptions to the rule. You have Basquiat, Basquiat's of the world, the Keith Harings of the world. But for the most part, you don't hear about artists in that popular space. You just really don't.
Why is that?
Because it's not cool. It's not something that's taught. Everything involves art, right? This paper you have right here, that's a graphic. Everything involves art in some way, shape, form, or fashion. It can be dismissed. You're not taking your kids and, no diss, but like, we're not taking our kids to museums.
Although the Brooklyn Museum is
I take
pretty
my kids to
poppin'.
museums.
Yeah.
But
Not
And
art
you know
museum.
what though? I will say when I see a certain exhibit coming that I'm like, oh, that looks like it might be dope. And when I see it like advertised somewhere or somehow, because I wouldn't know I don't go looking for it. But if I see something, because Brooklyn Museum does a lot of great exhibits, and so I will actually go to the Brooklyn Museum to go see something. But
you're an exception to the rule.
you know what else too? I think when I was in school growing up, the artists that we learned about, I was trying to understand why, like Jackson Pollock, right? We all learned about Jackson Pollock growing up, where he's just splattering paint, and that wasn't something that I really could find myself drawn
connect to it, right?
or relating to in any way. And then of course we all learn about Picasso is like, the top of the chain of everything. If you have a Picasso, it's the be all end all. But I don't know that I could look at that and say, wow, I really want one of those.
But see, that's the whole point. It's like, look at what Black Panther did. It's the first time we get to see ourselves front and center, right? Headlining. And that's the thing about art. There's very few Black artists that are prominent in that space. And so, it's representation. If you don't see yourself in these galleries, in these museums, a lot of times you're not going to come. And, that I feel like I'm very fortunate in, because there's not another me in this space where, we're doing merchandise and going from merchandising to sculptures to paintings and, sort of covering the whole spectrum of art. But there's no other brothers in the space. Like, anytime that I have a conversation with a new collector, and they're like, yo, point me to another artist, your sort of equivalent. And it really isn't. And it's sad, but again, it's like shining light, like doing things like this, bringing things to the forefront. Because, have you guys ever had a visual artist on here before?
No.
I don't think so. I don't want to diss anybody, but I don't believe so.
Not that I remember. Sorry, any visual artists that's been up here, but I don't recall any. Nah.
And I know Art Basel actually has been pretty instrumental, because now it seems like everyone wants to go to Art Basel, and that seems like the cool thing to do. But it is good for artists, because people are getting more exposure to certain things and wanting to go to these art shows that Art Basel has. When I think about events and things like that, that's what I think about Art Basel. Everybody's like, every year, are you going to Art Basel? And I know you've done your own pop-up at Art Basel as well.
Yeah, I try to do as much independent as I possibly can, because in the art world, it's crazy, man. It's like, you do an art show, for example, at a gallery, off top, it's 50%, so they're taking half of what you've created. And so for me, I always thought that was asinine. And, it's like you have enough friends that have a little bit of money. You start from there and you invite them. But like, case in point with this pop-up here, like, it's not sponsored by anybody. I rented out the space. I brought all the stuff here. We're selling work and selling merch. But, I just don't feel like, I feel like if you're in a position to sell your own work, you should. But that's where a lot of artists don't, a lot of artists aren't sellers of themselves or their work. They're very sort of withdrawn people, very, just kind of introverted people.
They don't want to deal with the business aspect of it.
Exactly. But, they're getting robbed. A lot of these, unless you're dealing with a higher tier gallery where you're selling work for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, it really doesn't make sense to give up half of what your blood, sweat, and tears is, especially now when you have social media. You can post it, have a dialogue with somebody, they like it, they can buy it right away.
You know what I've been doing? We own a me, Envy, and Styles P, we have a juice bar in Brooklyn, and we have a lot of space on the walls, right? Beautiful brick walls. So what I've been doing is having artists come and bring stuff that they could sell, and so we put it on the wall, and so if somebody wants to buy it, they could buy it, and we take 10%, and that's not really much, I feel like, for
at all.
And it's nice because then we have something displayed on our walls as well until someone purchases it.
Keep it new, keep it fresh,
and it's great for the local artists that we have.
Yeah.
I feel like Art Basel has become like a revolt music conference. Like, people go there for everything but the art.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They do. It's once the brands found out and they start coming through the corporations, you got the Beats party over here, the Smirnoff party over there.
Amex party.
Exactly. It's less about the art, but at the same time, it does bring attention to the art, because those folks that aren't too hungover will go see, some art the next day, or or at least they try to cram a little bit of art within these shows. But you're right, it really has. Art Basel started in Basel, Switzerland.
Okay.
And that's, it was highfalutin. It was sort of the elitist thing to do. But now, once it came to Miami, after several years in Miami, man, once some folks find out about it,
Yeah. I love your tattoo, man. Basquiat's bastard. I noticed that.
Thank you.
What's
Yeah,
that
man.
mean? I mean, it's self-explanatory, but
Well, yeah, but it's I landed. My understanding of high art starts with Basquiat. When I was younger, my mother, I was in comic books and cartoons heavy, and so my mother, in attempts to like show me another side, introduced me to pop art. So the Warhols, the Herrings, Basquiat, and for me, as a young Black man, again seeing myself in that space, I just was just enthralled with Basquiat, and I just figured like his style is so primitive, and you think about it, he's like, man, I can do that. You know, if he made it doing that, I could do that. Not really understanding the complexities of it, but at the time, you're just taking it for the aesthetics. You're taking it for how it looks. And so it was just always about, for me, it was Basquiat. I was just his clone, you know, for years and years and years as a young guy. And then, you know, you start to evolve and have a higher understanding of what it is and what the culture is. And, you know, you start to create your own voice and your own, you know, your own language. So it evolved from there. But that's the guy that raised me. You know?
Is Flyboy gonna become like a cartoon or anything in the future?
It's evolving, man. It's so I'm working with some really interesting people. My brother Michael B. Jordan. We've been collabing on, you know, something good. It's cooking.
You've been doing a lot of collaborations lately.
Collabs are good.
Yeah.
They can be good. Let me say that. They can be good. But yeah, I think it's important. You know, you start to see, I mean, because again, you catch a different audience each time, you know? So I think it's important. And again, my whole thing is I just want to, you know, obviously draw it back to me, but then to the greater message, you know, in terms of just like shut up and create. Like, you know.
And I'm sure it's impactful for the kids from Chicago to see one of their own, you know, doing something that maybe they never even pictured could be something they could make a living off of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, Chicago, we killing shit right now. We also doing some other stuff, but that's, you know, but
Killing shit.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But no, I think, you know, Chicago's always been sort of the third city, right? Like where the culture fluctuates inward, you know, from New York to LA, and we've sort of got it, you know, like secondhand almost. And so we haven't been the most progressive when it comes to arts, when it comes to fashion. Music, I've always felt like we were there, but again, we just had our own sound for so long. But you know, now Chicago's becoming more progressive in that way in terms of just all over creative. I mean, you have a lot of amazing artists that live here now, visual artists that live here that are from the crib, from Chicago, but, you know, again, their identity is more here. But, I mean, Chicago, like we have two of the highest paid, largest black visual artists in the world in Kerry James Marshall and Theaster Gates, you know, and they're still in Chicago, you know, and they've built their foundation in Chicago. And, you know, Kerry's not even from Chicago originally, he's from LA, you know, but again, to have that and for them to set their flag down, it means a lot because, you know, kids are watching. People
Do you still live in Chicago?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I travel a lot, but yeah, Chicago's my home. It's my home, yeah. So.
Why are the dolls gray instead of?
So this is the second edition. So, you know, like, when we do it, they're all limited. They're very limited, but we do different colorways. So the first ones were like flesh tone, the original, so kind of like that.
Got you.
But then, you know, just to feed the beast, you kind of gotta continue to do it. And it's
so
all,
then you know when you look at it immediately, oh, this is the second edition.
I mean, but again, it doesn't like degrade whatever that edition is. It's just the second colorway that sort of comes from it. But yeah, exactly.
And you got a pop-up shop all weekend?
Pop-up shop all weekend, man. In Soho. I don't know the address. What's the address?
It's 393 Broadway.
Yep.
It's actually not that far from where we are right now. And so people can come and actually buy art there. And I know you have merchandise.
It's a ton of merch. There's only a few pieces. There's some one-of-one prints that I've done. But yeah, you know, come through.
How much does stuff like that go for?
It's a ticket.
What's
you know?
the starting? I'm just curious. The 101.
I mean, well, the one-of-ones they start, you know, in the higher thousands.
Okay.
You know, like about like $8,000, $9,000. You know?
Okay.
But again, it's one-of-one.
Okay, it's better than buying a chain for some people.
Exactly. Exactly.
Did you put an extra tax on Jay just because it was Jay?
No, I didn't. Actually.
Okay.
I didn't. You know, it was just such a great thing, man, and it was like he was just very warm and embracing. So I damn near didn't want to tax him at all.
I know you would be like, just take it.
Right,
take it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so it was, you know, but again, that's what really helped propel it because again, it put it out to the mainstream of folks that weren't hip to it. But
that's dope.
But man, I got to tell you one thing, bro. I got a story
sir.
for you. It's real quick, man. But I got to thank you. So I got your book. I was doing some stuff in Tokyo this summer. I grabbed your book, and I read it on the flight over. And I took my son with me. It was his 8th grade graduation present. And my son, you know, he's a tall kid, but wrestling with that identity as you do when you're that young. And you know, the expectation that I don't put on him, but the expectation as a black man to do certain things, right? To be a basketball player. You know, if you're this tall, you need to do this. Blah blah blah. And, you know, I'm trying to communicate to him the best way I can. Like, you know, you have to just, you got to find what's in here and just be true. And so after reading your book, man, I gave him your book. And I made him read it over the summer. And it really completely changed this kid, man.
Wow.
That's dope.
He's always had you know, a talent for art and creativity, but, you know, you talk so much about just owning your truth, you know, and for him, you know, sometimes, man, you can hear your parents talk and it's white noise, but to hear somebody else say it, you know, it becomes factual.
Word.
And so, man, I really want to thank you for that.
Thank
that
you,
really
man.
Helped him.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's the transformative power of books.
It is.
Word.
It is. That's why we need to read more.
Absolutely,
Look at that.
100%. That's dope. So his pop-up shop is May 4th through the 6th, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., 393 Broadway, New York. It's the Nevermore NYC pop-up shop. Hebru Brantley, thank you for coming,
Man,
brother.
thank you guys for having me, sincerely.
I appreciate
Sincerely,
it. Yes.
Thank you.
It's the Breakfast Club.